welcome you guys to another episode of The Best Damn Coach. You know what's so interesting about being in the online space is you meet super cool people that you never had expected to come across your radar. And so I am really pumped to have Imbal on the show, who's somebody that I met online. And since then, you've jumped into my community in The Best Damn Coach, but I've really gotten to know you as a human and watch your business start to grow. So I'm so excited that you're here. So welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Amanda. I'm so beyond honored, and I love being in your world. And I love how both of our communities have meshed in so many ways, in person and virtual. So I'm so stoked to talk to you.
Yeah, I don't really even remember how we got connected. Maybe it was Haley Westfall, maybe it was I don't know, but I remember really clearly getting a message from you on Instagram. We chit chatted. You invited me into your community to experience it, and then you have this like very beautiful, authentic energy around you when you connect other women. And I find personally that's really hard to find in the online space, especially in the networking space, because I've jumped into so many networking experiences online and immediately I'm like, oh gosh, these are not my people. And I'm like looking at the time, wanting out of the group. So I want to celebrate that right off the bat. But I would love for you to just share with our audience what it is that you do so they understand kind of the context of this conversation.
Yeah, of course. So I really appreciate that. Um, Very funny. I remember the second email I emailed you, I called you Amy because
Oh my gosh, I've forgotten it. If that's helpful for you, I've forgotten. But I probably
oh
said,
my
"Oh, by
God.
the way, it's Amanda."
I know because a walk my way, for me it
Yeah.
was just Amy, and I was also pregnant and I was like, "Oh my God." I was mortified. But I basically invited you to teach inside my community and I was so excited that that worked out and then we just started meshing from there. So, I help women build out communities for their businesses. I know the impact that I have seen in my life and my business because I get referrals, loyalty, growth, a community for myself of business besties. And so that's what I do. I have a free social networking platform that I have built for female founders with community networking events and workshops, a place where friendship comes first and business comes second, because the last thing I want is for people to get that ick factor, like you were just talking about. And so it really is a place to find your business bestie and grow and not get that ick factor that other communities may bring.
Yeah, and I definitely feel that when I'm in your world and in the energy of the people, and you bring that in as well. And so I would love for you to just give us a little backstory about why community. Why did you decide? Like, was there a pivotal moment that you were like, I got to build this community, and then like-minded like came to fruition?
Yeah, so I have a candle company that I still make in my living room sometimes. But I was doing a lot of in person shows and events, and it was going really well. And then my first daughter was born, and I had to massively pivot to the online space. And I just felt like everybody looked at me like a dollar sign. People wanted me to join their mastermind, join their course, join their Facebook group page, but I wasn't allowed to talk about my business. I couldn't post links or anything. And I just felt like
Hmm.
everybody was silencing me or wanted me to purchase something from them. And all I really wanted was to find some business besties. So I really had incredible friendships of 20 plus years, but I didn't have anybody that I could riff about business with. And there wasn't something out there that I felt were my people. And so that's where I got the idea to create LikeMinded Collective, where really is a place to connect in a genuine manner, and to find friends. And I just saw how quickly, in me building my business, I connected with women to teach workshops, to do some hot seat coaching. And I was like, wow, these are girls that I could actually be friends with. And so I realized the importance of having them in my life. And that's why I started to build out this community for other women in entrepreneurship to find the same, because I know how important community is, especially when you find the right people.
Yeah. I like something you said in there, though. It was kind of like you couldn't find it on your own, so you build it, right? And I think that that is an important lesson in business creation in general. That's why I built the Best Damn Coach. It was I was looking around at all of these places, and it was like the business stuff was separate from the coaching stuff, and it was like more certifications, no business. And I'm thinking, we as coaches, we have to have both. We have to be great at coaching and know how to coach, but we also have to grow a business, or it's otherwise it's just a hobby. And so for our listeners, I just want to remind you that just because it's been done in a similar way does not mean that it will be done your way. And so if you see a pocket and a need, then it is an invitation to, create what you think is missing in the market specifically.
Yeah,
I would
100%.
love
It's
to.
funny because when I talk to people about like just building communities, I have people list all the communities that they're a part of. I have them list everything that they love about those communities and then everything that they dislike. And so when you really start to figure out, like, ooh, I like this, or oh, I don't like that, then you're able to create something that is perfect for people like yourself, right? And so it's easier to market when you're marketing to people like yourself and you're the
Mhm.
target market because you know what you need and what's missing out there. So that's something super easy that people can do is just like, what do I love? What do I dislike? And how can I build this? Because that's going to be the most successful.
I love that. And I just want to celebrate. And I don't even know where your membership is, but when we're talking about networking, you don't have a community of just a few hundred. You've literally built LikeMinded to thousands of women. And so, what do you feel like has attributed to your success in building that community?
Um, the biggest success is because I'm genuine. And I think that just approaching women in an authentic way and actually caring about them as people has brought in the most amazing women. And in turn, they talk about my community for me. I get like word of mouth is what brings the most amount of people into my world and new people registering for LikeMinded Collective. We get about 100 or so new women every single month, and it's because of word of mouth. So it's almost like when you talk about community building in general and people, want to start off so big, but there's such a benefit to starting off small and cultivating those relationships with the women who are in your world in the beginning and just making them your friends and caring about every aspect of their life and business, because in turn, they're going to turn around and talk about your business. So,
Mhm.
spending a little bit of time getting to know people, doing that relationship building, has really been the one thing that has built my business the most, is really caring about people that come into my world.
It's pretty simple. It's pretty
I
simple,
know.
yet like I think we overcomplicate it, and we look for all these like fancy strategies, but at the end, I just think like loving people will always win, and sometimes it takes a little bit longer, but people will come back for that genuine connection eventually.
Yeah, 100%. When people sign up for LikeMinded Collective, there's always a link in there to schedule a 15-minute chat with me. And it's a way for me to talk to them, to meet them, to ask them about their business, to know, like, I need to know how I can help you. And that is such a game changer because they're like, wow, this person actually cares about me. And I genuinely do. And so it really just brings people in. I can't tell you how, like somebody today I was messaging on Instagram. She was like, "Oh, my friend said that I should follow you and join your community." And I connected with this girl yesterday on Instagram, and she right away turned around and told her friend to come and join us in person. So it really is. It takes a little bit of time, a little bit of effort, but it goes such a long way.
Yeah, I totally agree. I want to talk about community though in general because I think that the word community is very vague, and one you are an expert in building in community building. You've built your community, but for me, when I think about community building, I'm like, I do not want to tackle a networking group. I do not want to tackle a free Facebook community. I know that about myself. I build community in a different way. And so I would love to just have you maybe define when you say community and or the importance of community in your business. Can you talk to us a little bit about what that means to you?
Yeah. It's literally one sentence. make people feel seen, heard, and appreciated. And you do this so well inside of the Best Damn Coach because you're bringing people live together. And like I've experienced this where I'm sharing and somebody else chimes in and they're, rooting me on. And I'm like, wow, this is the power of community. And so it really is just bringing people together in whatever space to connect with one another. It can be 4 people, it can be 10, it can be 100, but that is to me the importance of community and the way to cultivate community. Where for you, you're like, I don't need to do a networking group, but you build community within your paid members so beautifully. And it's because of you, right? The community builder is the one that dictates what that looks like. You allow people to share, you allow people to speak, you allow people to provide insight. It's not the Amanda show. And I think that really, really just creates such an amazing dynamic where you're the expert. We rely on you for knowledge, but community we get from the other women that are in the room.
Yeah. Well, thank you first off. I appreciate that. And I like how you've said that. And I honestly think that that's what coaching is about too. I think that's what mentorship in general is, creating a space for people to feel seen and heard is ultimately what we all are craving.
Right.
And a great coach really does that beautifully. But I think that that same is true of a community builder. It just looks slightly different in a personalized one-to-one environment versus a group environment as well. I want to go back to that question, though. I want to dive a little deeper. When we think community, I am curious when it comes, obviously, coaches are listening to this podcast. What are your thoughts, opinions, or what do you teach as far as building community for prospective clients versus building community for existing clients? Do you think both are needed? Do you think one or the other? Do you think it doesn't matter? Like, what are your thoughts around that?
Okay, thank you for re-asking that because I think we froze for a little bit, so I missed that part of your question. But I think that there's 2 different ways. I think that there is so much value in creating a free membership for people, and there's so much value in creating members or community amongst your paid members. So we can even go, I'll give an example. So there's somebody in my program right now who has a breathwork membership, and she does 8 breathwork calls a month, and she's like, I'm trying to build my membership. And I said, what if you offer one free one a quarter to bring more people into your world and create community amongst the women who are coming to your free call? So you can do, like for me, my free community. I have a platform, messaging, networking events, all of that. Or it could just be as simple as creating a once a quarter event that people can go to network, connect, do some breath work, experience what you offer, and then go into your membership. So there's value in both. Like you do free workshops, that's a way to bring people together to lead into your paid membership. But I think that there's value in both, but there is a caveat that free community takes a lot of time and effort. And somebody who really has their mission and vision and values is all about making money, community is not going to work for them because you have to pour so much of your time and effort into it. So find a way that feels good for you, that you're not overextending, but you're still able to provide value in a free way to get people into your paid membership, your program, however that looks like. As far as community amongst your membership or paid assets, I think that's the best way to retain your customers and clients, the
Hmm.
absolute
Hmm.
best. If you can somehow make people feel like, oh my God, Amanda like genuinely cares about my business and is going above and beyond and, pointing me in the right direction, whether it be her or her team, I feel like I want to stay with you,
Hmm.
because I know that I'm not going to be lost in a sea of people. So if you can cultivate community amongst your paid members or people in your program or people in your high ticket program, that's the best way to really keep them engaged and retained in your program.
Yeah. I agree. It goes back to for me, the surprise and delights. It's the extra loom that you create for somebody who's asking for feedback. It's the questions unprompted. It's when like I always go back, and the same was when I was an educator in the classroom. Like, you don't leave the classroom at the end of the day and your brain stop thinking about your students. Like, people that really care about their their members, their students, their coaches in their community. We're just always thinking about our clients. And I know for me, that's the beauty of who I am as a person. It's also the struggle, right? Because it's hard to shut off. But if I'm on Instagram or I hear a podcast and I'm like, oh, Imbal needs to hear that, or oh, she should attend this event, or oh, this content would be valuable. For me, I'm always thinking of sharing who can I give that to. And I think that when we think community, it doesn't have to be the big events. It's also the really tiny things that you do that surprise and delight. We just had a mixer in our community. It was super fun. We gave away free stuff. We do kind of big mixers twice a year. So I think there's so many little, I mean, I say big mixer, but it's still not huge. It's just little opportunities to capitalize on bringing people together, even the ones that are already inside your world.
I was exactly going to mention that. The mixer that you did was so fun. And that really cultivated community, right? Because people came in knowing like, to chat, right? We're going to get to know each other. The little touch points that you're talking about are huge. And that's another reason why I do one-on-one calls with people that come into my community, because I want to know who I can connect them with. So for me, if I can make a connection between two people inside the community, that's like my love language, right? I'm like, I'm going to send a voice note, connect them. That's what makes me the happiest when I see people collaborating. So it's those little touch points, exactly like you said, that just go so far.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so now I want to turn the focus towards you and your business growth because I have the pleasure of having you also as a member inside the Best Damn Coach. And I love that you just talked about free membership being time consuming and exhausting and lots of energy and possibly not profitable. And that was one of the things we had an opportunity. One of the bonuses that I sometimes offer in the BDC is a one-to-one call. And as we started talking, you were just basically like, I love what I do, but like there has to be more profitability because the collective takes lots of time and it's not really, you're not out to make lots of money. You're out to build a community, as you said. And I had this kind of light bulb of, but Imbal, you're not talking about the very thing that you do. And so you had this aha moment as we worked through the potential. So I'd love for you to share how that conversation shifted, how you show up differently in your community now.
Yeah. So I started LikeMinded Collective. I had zero idea of what I was doing. And I think that feeling just has continued for 2 years where I'm like, okay, I know basically how to go from like day to day and I'm putting out a lot of fires, but now I have this community building, program. And how do I get more people into that? And how do I get more people into my workshops? And I was bringing experts into my community every single month. And you were like, why don't you teach, a community building workshop? And I'm like, why am I not doing that? And so I started to do that. Last month was the first one. And I'm making them in a way that feels good for me, where it's bite sized. They're 30 minutes. My problem personally is I give too much away. And so I'm
It's not
making
just you,
them,
that's a lot of people, that's a lot of people, so you're not alone in that.
I know. But I was actually talking to Haley about this because she wants to do something similar. And I was like, listen, like we're community builders, right? We naturally give more than we take. And so for me to make the workshop 30 minutes with a very minimal time for Q&A gives me what I'm hoping to do is give value, but without giving too much value and opening up the floor to just Q&A. And so I made it in a way that feels good for me, thanks to advice from you and kind of working through like that imposter syndrome almost too, where I'm bringing in coaches every single month into my elite membership for LikeMinded Collective. I'm bringing in experts to do workshops, but I never thought of myself as an expert. And so working through that confidence too, and having that light bulb moment that you provided me with, I'm like, this is amazing. And it helps because, it just shows my expertise in community building to my existing community.
Well, I think this is not this is a common problem, and I see it in two areas: in the networking space and in the podcasting space. Adam Shively, he was on the podcast, I believe, in April. So go back and listen to the episode because we talk about elevation as an expert. And so here's what happens often: is we build these platforms, and I'm going to use my podcasting platform as an example. We build the platform, and if I were to just have a guest on every single week, I'm not really positioning myself as this is my show and I am the expert. I can be an exceptional interviewer, but unless I've had some like amazing history before and I've had this existing platform and I'm going to utilize this as more of a, I would say, celebrity, interview place. For those of us that are ground up creating spaces to really bridge community and build a network to possibly bring in clients, we have to be clear on what the end goal is. And if the end goal is to bring in profit, then we have to be seen as an expert. So it's the same as in your case, a networking. You've built the networking space, but what I was really seeing is you didn't establish yourself as an expert in a particular niche. And so they're coming in and you're amazing at building the community, but they don't really know beyond that what your value is. Are you a business coach? Are you, a product based person because you had a candle company? No, you're like a master community builder and you've done this in various ways in your life. And so I think that's the thing that I want to offer the listeners is you have to be intentional about the spaces you curate so that you position yourself as a go-to expert for the problem you solve. And then inside of the collective, you don't really want, it would be wise not to have other community builders come in and teach, but it would be wise to have other genres or niches teach so that you hold that space consistently as the go-to expert in that space.
Yeah, let me add something to that, Amanda, really fast,
Mm.
because I think this is so important that when you're working with a coach, that you are not one in a million, right? Where they know you, your business, they take time to get to know you as a person. Because if I were to just do like a one-on-one call with somebody who didn't know anything about me or take time to learn about my business, the feedback would not be nearly as valuable as it was. So that also is also another reason why community building inside your coaching program is so valuable, because what you give your clients is just a million times better than what I could probably get from somebody else.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Welcome.
And I think sometimes it's just such a great example. I mean, I work with a coach, you work with a coach, coaches need coaches, and that sometimes we just suffer from that insider blindness. We are so good at what we do, we are so far along, and we need somebody with fresh eyes and fresh ears to just say, but how can we make what we're already doing even better? How can we see the gap specifically? And I know that that for me is like, very invaluable in so many instances in my life and in my business.
Mhm.
Um, One of the things that we were kind of joking about before too is that getting rid of imposter syndrome and finding a way to put our offer out there in a service non-sleazy way. And I think that this is a struggle for many coaches is we don't know how to show up, or we kind of fumble around in the transitions if we're hosting a workshop or we're speaking on stage, or even if we're talking on Instagram, is we can provide a ton of value, maybe even too much, and then we're going to transition to actually positioning our offer and saying, okay, but I have this program and this is what we were doing. And so I started like kind of like, okay, Imbal, we've got to really start talking about it. And you've made so much progress. So I'm super pumped for you. But can you tell us about like that aha moment and what it's like, to now elevate yourself and be really confident, or begin to be confident about actually saying, I have this program and it's going to change your life. Come join me.
Yeah, so I have a story with that. So you came to my in-person event in November, right? And we were driving from the event to the drinks after, and you were like, Imbal, you
I was
need
like,
to.
permission to tell you one thing
I,
because I'm going to bust if I can't tell you this.
I know. And this was my aha moment to work with you, right? Where I was like, I really want to. Do I not? And you were like, you need to give yourself permission to like invite people into your program and to work with you. And I've never allowed myself to do that because I always felt like it was icky. And you were like, we're literally covering this in the next month in BDC. And I was like, okay, I'm in. you know? And I've learned so much since, even like how you bring Jillian in on the calls and talking about sales and the examples that you give and just your coaching in general. I'm like, I deserve, right, the time to sell my services, because the women in my world are in my world for a reason, and they approach me for a reason. They ask me questions for a reason because they know that I can help them. And so allowing myself that has been a game changer. Although I didn't do it at this morning workshop, but we talked about that.
That's all
Um,
right.
but I am much more confident in selling and talking about my offer and taking up that space. So I appreciate you for pushing me in that way.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it is taking up that space. And like, I like how you worded it, it's giving yourself permission. You have done all this work, and we have to understand that if we have the solution to someone's problem, I always look at like, who are we to not offer it, right? We can put it out there. It's ultimately their decision, decide to come closer. But at the end of the day, I want my coaches to be profitable coaches, not hobbyist coaches, because it's a lot of energy to be continuing and not make profit from it. And I know that that feels deflating and exhausting for people. And so I'm so glad that you've like come full circle. And can we just celebrate the fact that I don't remember the number, but it was in the low 20s, I think. You surpassed your goal even. So when you launched and opened doors to the program, you were in the BDC for like 30 days. It was right on the beginnings of your launch. You got like 25 or something women inside of it.
Yeah, I think when I started, I was at like 8 women or something. And then at the beginning of the year, I was at 13. And yeah, ended with 22 women inside my first round. So it feels amazing.
I love that so much. And I think it's just a few small tweaks, right? And now we get to pull that data and rinse and repeat. And now you have all these amazing testimonials. I was even like, okay, you're midway through. Make sure you're collecting testimonials, like
I
thinking
know.
about,
I mean,
all of these things.
even when I saw my funnel work, right, where I get people in for my freebie and then hosting my free workshop and pitching, and then people sign up for my program, it's like, it's working because I'm talking about it.
Yes.
Nobody will know that I have this program unless I talk about it. And then going to, the coaching calls along the way and being able to talk about how do I bring this past this program into more of a membership style after to help women continue their growth has been beneficial. Just asking even the women in BDC, workshopping that with you. And again, I don't have to repeat my business to somebody because you guys know my business and you care about the growth of it. And so just getting people around you who are like, okay, Imbal, maybe you should do this, or like, stop doing that, or tweak this a little bit, has been so beneficial because I know I have a support system, twice a month.
Yeah. I mean, really 24/7 though, right? I mean, the
Oh
live
yeah,
calls are twice a month, but beyond that. But I like as you said that, that made me think of an early mistake I think I made in my business, just being transparent, is I think it was a little egoic. But my business was growing fast, and I would like work with someone for a short term and then be like, okay, now I'm going to move on to the next coach, because I felt like, oh, if I keep jumping, then there's going to be something more revolutionary from the next coach. And I fell flat on my face from that. I think what would have better suited me was to stick with the same coach over a longer period of time, because like you said, I was starting over consistently. I was like having, and then I'm like, yeah, but like she didn't really, like she doesn't know my business like the last person. And I did have some regrets, and I learned new things. But I will say, for those of you learning, I think there's a lot of value, until you feel like a good coach will say, hey, you've outgrown me, let me connect you with the next person. I think there's a lot of amazingness if a coach can say that, but I think I could have probably stayed with the right mentors longer. That's why my community that I'm in now with my mentor, I will be there for years, because like they know my business and they know the ins and outs, and I don't want to start from scratch. So I just think what you said is really extremely valuable. I would love, for you to share, before we end, just if for somebody that's just struggling with like investing in support, and I know that you kind of had the same maybe hesitations, like you said, what would you offer to that person around like taking that next step? Maybe it's the BDC, maybe it's something else, but like specifically in the BDC, what would you say to that person?
So, I mean, full transparency, my community was not bringing in money. It was a free community for a long time. And I invested the money that I did have in like email sequences and, coaching sessions here and there. And when I was like, okay, it's time for me to really have somebody help me grow my business. For me, I'm just grateful that Amanda has a group program because I wouldn't be able to afford a one on one, I'm sure. But it made sense for me to stretch myself a little bit because I knew that I would be getting literally everything. I get one-on-one time with you. I get group coaching calls with you. I get your experts that you bring in. I get a huge library of templates and resources and recordings, which is so beneficial. And so for me, just having everything was definitely worth paying that price tag. But I know that I've even had in return just made my money back from my full year investment, just by being in your community and in your world for 2 months. So it took me, though, almost 4 years to invest with a coach that felt good for me. So my one piece of advice for somebody is like, make sure that they're the right person, they're the right fit, they vibe
Totally.
with you, they care about you, before you sign with anybody. But I feel like your community has, or your coaching, the BDC has absolutely everything.
Yeah,
So I
it's
love
so good. I love that. It's like, don't rush, ask the right questions, get to know someone, get into their worlds. And I think that's such valuable feedback.
it.
I want you to talk about two things, though, because we've been talking about the collective, and I have been fortunate enough to just jump into some of the calls, and I'm always like blown away when I get on some of the networking calls because they're so robust. And I'm gonna like really champion your community because it does feel good in there. And I'm gonna drop a link in the show notes so you can go experience Inbal's free community as well. But I would love for you to just invite the listeners to come connect and tell us more about the Like-Minded Collective first, and then I want you to talk about your program as well.
Yeah. So, Like-Minded Collective, we have 2 free networking calls every single month. We have a journaling weekly where you can hop on, hop off, and just kind of put pen to paper. We have workshops throughout the month, but it really is just a place to connect. We do small group discussions in our networking calls. So you really have a way to build deeper relationships with the women on there. And then Amanda will leave a link for you to join. You can follow me at Inbal Claudio on Instagram. And then my program is, and I laugh because I perfected this line thanks to Amanda again. Um,
Yeah, let's bring
but
it.
I help women build wildly engaged communities that naturally lead to more referrals, loyalty, and growth in both your life and business. I do this
Woo!
through an 8-week program. We have workshops, one-on-one Q&A, and hot seat coaching. And it really is for anybody who wants to build an in-person community or a virtual one, paid or free. So the next one, I know this episode's going to launch in May, so we always have upcoming cohorts, and just message me for more info.
Yeah, I love that. And the reason I really want you guys to connect with this community is I see too many amazing coaches just expecting clients to come to them. We sit in our homes, especially in the online space. We post a couple times on social media and we're like, why isn't my business growing? And the thing is this is what we teach. One of the strategies inside the BDC is you have to go be visible. You have to get out of your comfort zone. You have to go meet people. And I think these kind of communities, specifically Imballs, and getting into a networking with a room full of other talented people is a great way for you to get comfortable. Just saying what you do, right? Having your I help statement ready. I mean, there's so much, I think it's really undervalued, but just seeing what's out there and then following through on some of those connections you make to start bridging the gap to more connections, more partnerships, collaborations, all the things. So definitely, double down on the collective and then take a peek at how to build community as well. So, Imbal, I'm celebrating you. Thank you for just all of your kind words. And I love just watching your progress and talking, sharing, pitching, all the things. So, thank you for being a guest with me today.
Thank you so much for having me.